So Unit.Ventures is our venture wing within the Unit ecosystem and the token economy. To begin with, we have the Unit.Ventures program, which is focused on kickstarting token-based token-based projects built on Unit. In the future, we're going to be building ventures programs for both our industry as well as our cities, as well as our crypto ecosystem. So we'll be touching more on that later today with our industry and city focused tokens, and really looking forward to all the different presentations that people are giving. Lynn here just gave a really good presentation on Miami. Shelton here is giving a really amazing presentation later on the coffee token economy. So really excited to learn more about these different industries so that we can build the token economy within each of them. So first question, like why? Why are we doing Unit.Ventures? Like, why is it important? Why is it worth our time? Why should we be getting involved in the ventures aspect? So the Unit.Ventures initiative is really focused on building, token-based projects. The building of a token project is not easy because it's so new. There's not very many case studies or success stories to look at. There's many different cryptocurrencies which are really big, but in terms of financially sustainable and successful token-based projects, it's extremely new. This concept mentioned before with the treasury on the Unit presentation, is what we believe to be evolution of the token-based economy, and we think that the ventures programs helps these sustainably built projects succeed. So how are we doing it? So we basically have this flywheel. It starts off with the forums like this, where we're getting inspired, we're connecting, and really enjoying it. Listening to different speakers. We're part of sessions that we enjoy. If a session is boring, you just jump to one of the other sessions and you get to really interact and spend time and learn from different people. Then, we hope that people join our master's program. Really looking forward to Yip's session later on the master's program where people get trained about tokens and the blockchain economy. And that follows by the ventures and the launch pad. So basically, after the master's program, people might do the master's program for a specific industry to understand how, this knowledge can be applied towards the industry. And then we hope that they lift off and build and scale their token-based projects within the token economy. So that brings us to Univenture. So, we've got, these 10-week programs where we take token entrepreneurs. It doesn't matter what industry or expertise someone might have for this program. I guess we do set a high bar in terms of the projects that we select. So speaking from personal experience, I used to work at a venture fund, and we used to get about 3,000 pitches a year. So 3,000 people on average had wanted us to invest our 800 million euro fund, and we invest in about 7 deals a year. So if you just work out the numbers, extremely small number of people actually benefited from our program, and lots and lots of people joined this, applied for the venture program, and I guess that's what we hope to. So in terms of our team, we've got a 6-person team at the moment for our ventures program, extremely experienced in terms of coming from venture building or investments or management consulting or actually building technology products. Also very global and diverse in terms of where geographically located, based in Asia, Europe, the United States, in terms of where people are. I guess before continuing on the why or the how or the specific details about the Unit.Ventures program, I'd love to talk about Y Combinator. So Y Combinator I've been following since the mid 2005, 2006, 2007, 2008. I'm a big fan of their news publication called Hacker News. So if you go to news.ycombinator.com, they publish a lot of their articles and news. And Paul Graham here, who you can see in the picture, he was the one of the originators of Y Combinator, and they started off on the east coast of the US in Boston with 10 companies, I think, or 7 companies in their first batch. And they didn't really know what they were doing. They kind of said, okay, if we give $12,000 to these 7 companies and mentored them and supported them, they're going to build the next generation, internet companies. And the internet wasn't so cool then. It was just after the internet bubble. This was 2005. Everyone said the internet was a scam because of the .com bubble, and a lot of people who were leaving university, all of the Ivy League universities in the US then, they were not interested in starting tech companies. It was all about going to management consulting, working at one of the big management consulting firms or working at one of the big banks, because that was where people felt they could make the most money. It was the most interesting and exciting job for them. But then Y Combinator really saw the potential in terms of tech startups and supporting them. Techstars followed soon after. This is also one of the top tech incubators, accelerators. They've done a lot better in terms of scaling globally. So Y Combinator has only largely been active in the US. They're based in Palo Alto and close to San Francisco. They moved from Boston when they felt that they needed more of a tech ecosystem. And they've launched, Y Combinator has launched, the likes of Dropbox, the likes of Airbnb, and really excelled there in terms of building some huge names of startups in the program. Techstars, so this is one of the top tech accelerators too. They've done really well in terms of partnering with local governments. So they're active all around the world, in Asia, in the Middle East, in Europe. Very active. I was quite involved with their fintech accelerator in London, and also I spent some time in 2011 with Startup Bootcamp, which was active in Berlin. So these are sort of programs which were inspired by the likes of Y Combinator. Also love to talk about Idea Lab. So Idea Lab was actually even before Y Combinator. It was started in the 90s by this gentleman called Bill Gross. He gave a really exceptional talk, and he said, the reason why startups succeed is not because they run out of money. The top three are because of bad timing. So you're either too early or too late. So timing is super important, and he says that's the most important behind why startups are successful. Number two is co-founder disagreements. So he says that a lot of startups fail because the co-founders or the people behind it get into arguments or disputes, and that leads to them failing or not succeeding. And number three is idea. So he says if the idea is not great, then they should start with a new idea or pivot towards something which is more interesting. So in terms of our roadmap, so we're working hard on preparing our first batch starting in January. We're now in 2021 focused on our batch zero, where we are working with 30 projects and allowing them to succeed. And I suppose the goal behind these projects are to have successful proof of concepts of token-based projects. So the program has two phases. The first phase is a 6-week program where they design their token, they issue the token, they sell it, they engage with the token economy, they manage the token value, and the key deliverables there are preparing the material, showing it's got some form of traction, showing the team has got experience, showing the SDG impact connection, and then after the 6 weeks, the final 4 weeks are really about scaling. It's helping these projects take it to the next level. So the first 6 weeks is all about experimentation, figuring out what works. And then the 4 weeks beyond that are to really, push and accelerate the aspect. So a few of our case studies, one of them, we have a football team within Unit. We have a UNFC token. And, it sounds kind of ridiculous. Like why would you create a token for a football team? Though, we have shown that, we have an economic model behind the football team with subscriptions, with t-shirt sales, with, a membership, playing in a league, and got very committed group of people. So this is one very simple example of a venture case study, which is not super serious, but is an example. Another one is the Light Leaders token. So this is a community that you can see Alex Lambert in the picture runs, and it's amazing. It's got hundreds of people in the community, and he's excited to show one example of a token-based community and ecosystem looks like. Teddy Azar, so he's a hospitality entrepreneur and investor. He's tokenizing himself, so he has a large number of real estate interests and hospitality projects. This is an example of a personal token. So excited, during our first batch, just to see how he can use his network to align the incentives between his community and himself, for them both to really thrive. Another project is the Ralph Maddy token. So Ralph is the founder of one of the biggest festivals in North America. He starts at BPM. And he's got a wide range of business interests, from restaurants to bars to hospitality projects. And he's excited to tokenize and do token-based projects for each of these ventures. To begin with, though, he's issuing a personal token, which basically allows people to buy into his entire portfolio of projects, and really excited for that case study there, just because he's so passionate, excited about it, and he's very keen to use his community. And next is Tintera Coffee. So this is a coffee-based brand started by Michael Riyadi. He's originally from Indonesia, currently living in LA, part of one of the most wealthy families in Indonesia, and he has got a coffee brand called Tintera, which he's essentially created a token for, so that the coffee drinkers can receive a bit of the upside for its growth. And coffee as an industry is huge. I highly recommend listening to Shelton's talk later, which talks about the coffee industry. So really looking forward to that. The Empathy School. So this is one of our other projects, which is part of the first Unit.Ventures batch. It's basically creating a school where it's privately owned through the form of tokens. And if you've heard of the concept of the green school in Bali, this is the evolution of that. So it's trying to create a new form of education and allowing the parents and students to own a piece of the underlying economic value being created. Next is our unit kitchen. So here we are here in Bali launching a number of cloud kitchens. So a cloud kitchen is where, or a ghost kitchen is where you have a restaurant, but without a place for people to sit, without waiters, without significant overhead, and it scales extremely quickly. Here you can see several of the brands which we are building up. One is for burgers, Brian's Burgers. One is falafel. One is John's Juice and Sandwiches, Frank's Fish and Chips. And this comes under the kitchen token, which is entirely focused on plant-based cuisine. We've got two exceptional people leading this. We have Jenna, who's the founder of Cafe Organic. It's a very successful restaurant here in Bali. And Lesia, who started Alchemy, which is one of the first vegan restaurants here in Bali, focused on plant-based food. So really excited and grateful for that. We also have Benji as part of our team for the Unit Kitchen, who has significant experience in cloud kitchens. He's taking a company public on the Toronto Stock Exchange with hundreds of different cloud kitchens at the moment. So really excited that he is such a big believer in using tokens for cloud kitchens. Next, we have a Cenggu shortcut project. So for those people who are not living in Bali, this might be quite like what is the Cenggu shortcut? So Cenggu is a place in Bali. It's one of the big towns or cities in Bali, and there is a shortcut which connects this town. And this shortcut basically saves people 25 minutes of traveling. However, if you look really closely in the picture, it's a very narrow road where people often fall off the road or get injured because of how badly broken it is. So I'm really excited for this project because typically roads and public infrastructure is something that governments take care of. However, this is privately owned land, so the government hasn't really stepped in. So the really cool thing here is it shows how a non-profit generating asset like a road, because there's no money made from, let's say, a toll charge, there's no subscription, there's no business model behind it, but it has a significant amount of value. So really excited for this as a case study because given this succeeds, you can apply it towards funding public libraries. You can fund it. You can use it to fund, let's say, a dam, to power infrastructure, electricity. You can use it, to pay for a security, to keep a particular neighborhood safe. You can use it to fix street lamps. You can use it for really a wide range of things, or public goods, which typically you rely on a big central government for. So really excited for this study. EMW token, so East Meets West. This is another member of our first batch. It's a leading football agency. So they have tens of super high profile players. They have 5 offices in Brazil, in Shanghai, in London, and they basically represent football players and work with the likes of the Brazilian football team, and really excited not just to issue tokens for football players with them, but issuing tokens for the agency. So if you think they represent all of these football players with tens of millions of followers and fans, this allows these footballers to have a piece of the agency too. So it really aligns the incentives. Next one is the Bali Action Park. So this is led by this gentleman, Mark. He's a SEA Games wakeboarder. So he's like amazingly good at wakeboarding. He is currently fundraising for a wakeboard park along with other action sports here in Bali. It's a $2 million project, covering about 4 or 5 hectares. So really excited for this case study because it shows not just another technology project which uses the blockchain, but a very real development. Elevation Barn. So this is from one of our co-founders and partners, Brett. He is part of this community called Elevation Barn. It comprises of some really incredible impact thought leaders, entrepreneurs, investors, and really excited to personally invest and as well as drive and support the tokenization of the incredible community like this. I think it's really cool too because they were originally looking to set up sort of a venture fund to support the Elevation Barn community, and we realized the potential of tokens here. So huge props to them because they are able to see the potential here where many other communities might be a bit later, but we're confident that all communities will use tokens in the future. And next is the Vortex project. This is also part of our first batch. It's basically a new form of dams. So typically with a dam, it's basically water flowing through a very small generator, and that basically isn't very efficient because there's a lot of drag created, a lot of friction. With this model, basically all of the energy is basically centered in the middle in a vortex. So it's continually increasing the amount of energy used to turn the turbine. So I'm really excited for this because it shows an example of a energy generation project which uses tokens. Coconut culture. So this is another venture in our first batch. It's led by this entrepreneur David Brackus, and he's basically built a kombucha drinks brand which has been quite successful. He's only started it a year ago, but is doing exceptionally well there. Basically, he's created a token so that his fans and customers and suppliers and distributors and restaurants can buy into his drinks brand and company. So excited for this as a very real case study for our first batch. Developing Villages Agency. So I highly recommend listening later to the talk by Brendan Bauer. He's talking about the real estate industry. So this is the real estate agency firm that he runs, Developing Villages Agency, and very similar to East meets West, EMW token, DVA token represents its agency. So they focus specifically on issuing tokens for real estate and helping real estate projects benefit from the token economy. So really excited to see how this develops. Unit Village. So this is a real estate based project. We have an incredible architect on our team. His name is Sam. He used to run the Chinese office for Zaha Hadid, so incredibly exceptional architect. And the Unit Village is basically meant for our core team and for our advisors. We're showing our real estate project can not just be funded, but operationally run using tokens. And really excited to show the case study from this to people in the real estate and building world, because then it's going to really open their eyes, because at the moment the real estate industry currently heavily relies on banks, and this provides a viable alternative to financing it. So the Unit Hub, this is also in the Nyani region. We're doing this Nyani project with an extremely successful entrepreneur, one of the most successful entrepreneurs in Europe. He's basically acquired over 45 hectares of land, and the Unit Village is part of the base camp, and the Unit Hub is an office space which is to support that. So the Unit Town is also a project in Bali, which is led by the Unit core team. This is from a friend who basically has 400 hectares right next to the airport. It's an entire island. One of the most biggest families in Indonesia. They own the Apple franchise, the Starbucks franchise, the 10 biggest tire manufacturer in the world. They're bringing the G20 here to Bali. So the likes of Joe Biden, the likes of Boris Johnson, Vladimir Putin, you name it, they're all coming to Bali next October. And part of this event is going to be held on this island, Kura Kura. We're excited to build a blockchain town there. So at the moment there isn't a real hub for blockchain or cryptocurrencies or digital assets or the token economy. You kind of think of Paris as being one of the fashion hubs, or Silicon Valley as being the technology hubs. We want to make Bali, and specifically this island, the hub for digital assets, tokens, and cryptocurrencies. Also in Lisbon, we're building up a team there to set up an office space there. The current code name for that is Quadra. So looking to have this be in our first batch and seeking out the viability of it. Basically focused on a blockchain co-working space. And in terms of the name, Quadra stands for block, and block is short for blockchain. So it's really like a blockchain co-working space. And Lisbon has become a huge hub in the digital asset and token world. Many friends and advisors and people in our community and beyond in our ecosystem have moved to Lisbon because it's extremely favorable from the innovation perspective. The government's very supportive in terms of implementing new measures, and really excited to spend more time there. Here's a real estate project, also part of our first batch. It's a very small development. It's got 4 rooms, 2 bedrooms, 2 living rooms, and a kitchen. It's valued at $300,000 US. That's also based in Bali. And Wilson, who's part of our first Unit.Ventures batch 1, is creating a token for it and showing how he's able to allow his friends and supporters to buy into his Palm Villa. Orena Okoko, so this is an extremely talented fashion designer here based in Bali. She's been in the fashion world for about 5 years, and I'm actually wearing some of her clothes at the moment. It does exceptional stuff. This is a really good example of a fashion designer who is using tokens to allow her project to have aligned incentive for customers, employees, and allows it to generate the sales and capital to scale. Blockpiece Fashions, so this is from a fashion designer who is a bit earlier than Orena Okoko, the previous brand. It's pre-launched, but the founder of it has an exceptional network, both in the marketing and the fundraising world. And he basically wants to build a crypto-focused fashion brand. It's only accepting digital currency and digital assets to buy the clothing. And he's basically created a Blockpiece token for people to buy products or buy into his brand. We have a successful Italian DJ, Francesco Castelli. He made his name in Australia, in Sydney and Melbourne, and he's part of our first batch, creating a token for his fans to basically buy into, which is backed by his live gig revenue, his merchandise sales. And then finally, to wrap it up, got my personal token. So I'm part of the first batch. I'm really excited to put my some of my crypto holdings and part of my net worth behind my token, so that I can show that when I tell people that, hey, you should create a token, I can speak for myself and say, hey, I'll give you some of my tokens, or you can buy some of my potential future success, and I'll work hard to make sure that trust is protected. So please feel free to reach out. We're actively building our Unit.Ventures core teams and industry and city teams, and really grateful for your time here, and really looking forward to collaborating, teaming up in the future. And thank you so much, Daniel and Vanessa and everyone else for being here. Daniel and Vanessa are part of our Unit.Ventures team, and they've worked exceptionally hard to build some of the material that's shown here. And we're working hard to prepare for the first batch. So thank you very much.